Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? Before we hop into this podcast, I just want to ask you guys to please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps my channel grow a lot. You can do so just by clicking the little red subscribe button below the video right here. It's free, and it helps my channel grow. We recently hit 100 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for that, and let's get into the podcast. Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? I'm back with another podcast. Today we're going to have on my good friend, Lilli Scott. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things, but mostly like climate-related things, environmental things. And also, I want to say at the start of this video, I like my podcast and my news to be separate. I try to keep like really unbiased on my podcast, but we're starting from the assertion that climate change is real. So if that's like triggering to you or something, then you might want to click off. But we're starting from the assertion that climate change is real because it's like scientifically proven and whatnot. So we're not going to debate that. We're just going to talk about what we can do about it. But yeah, with that being said, I'll let Lilli kind of give a background about herself, and then we'll start up.
Hey, my name is Lilli Scott. I'm a freshman at the University of Iowa with a major in environmental policy and planning and a certificate in sustainability.
There you go. So when we were in high school, you started a thing called the Green Team. So first of all, is the Green Team still a thing without you there? And secondly, what was kind of the goal of that?
Yeah, Rachel Hellman actually is the president now. And I think she's going to be a senior next year, so I'm assuming she'll carry it on, but I'm not sure. I hope she does. But I started it because one day I was driving around town with my parents down by like the BNSF railroad tracks, like behind McDonald's and stuff, kind of, where those trailer parks are. And it was just like, there was so much trash everywhere, like mattresses and old TVs and just a bunch of like gross stuff everywhere. And like, it was just sitting there, like no one was picking it up or anything. And then as I like started to notice that, I noticed more stuff around town, and I was just like, why isn't anyone like trying to clean this up? So I thought that like it would be a good thing for high schoolers to take on, just to show that like we care about our community and we want to make it look better, not only for like our community, but just like the environment in general.
Yeah.
And it was also like good volunteer hours and stuff like that. So
yeah. What did you learn from that experience, would you say?
I learned a lot by like I had to work with the Chamber of Commerce to like organize events for like citywide cleanups, and then also with like the Parks and Rec people. And like, gosh, I think he was like the director of Parks and Rec. He was helpful in some areas, but also was like, when I went there and I told them, I was like, I'm doing this thing and I want to clean up these areas of town. He was like, oh yeah, like he knew the problem was there, but they hadn't done anything about it. So it was kind of frustrating to see like that the people in charge, like I know they have important things to take care of, but like trash is important too. And like, I know it's not on like a main road of town, but we should still care about that.
Yeah, and even on like main roads of town, there's still trash. So that's kind of my follow-up question to that is like, why hasn't, you would think that a high school kid wouldn't have to start an organized group to start cleaning up. So why do you think that is it like that everywhere in Iowa for the most part, do you think? Or is that just a smaller town thing?
People just like don't care, or they don't realize what impact it has when they're just like driving down the road and they throw their fast food out the window. Like even some of my friends, like I tell them, I'll get on them like, hey, like that's really bad, you shouldn't do that. And they're just like, oh, but it's just one time. But like all those times you do that, it adds up, and it's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So fast forward to today, what do you do today in terms of activism?
I took a class last semester that was a service break course where you like volunteer over spring break, and the trip got canceled because of the coronavirus, but it was for environmental justice in Memphis, Tennessee. So I got to learn all about like just the entire environmental justice movement and like how it started and stuff, which was really interesting. But I'm also a part of the University of Iowa Environmental Coalition, which is just like a student group on campus that focuses on sustainability and stuff like that, and getting like students on campus kind of involved in caring about the environment more. And I actually just got elected to be one of the volunteer coordinators for that group. So that's
there
awesome.
you go. Yeah, congratulations on that. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but obviously a lot of people like just don't care. So maybe talk about why it's important to be environmentally aware, especially kind of zeroed in on like the Green Team in terms of like trash, the things that like will immediately affect you.
I think that another important thing about the Green Team was just like the fact that we were promoting like we are young people and we do care about this and we are aware of it, it made like other people more aware, and not just high schoolers, but like the entire community, because we had like citywide cleanups where we invited everyone, and we had a decent turnout for the Earth Day cleanup. But I feel like because we got so much media coverage in the news and in the newspaper, like more adults would have seen it and they would have been like, wow, like I feel bad that these high school kids are cleaning up my trash. Like maybe I should be more aware about this. But I don't know. I just think overall, like all of society, we aren't really aware of the impact that we make, because I've heard so many people say like, well, why should I like take a reusable cup to Starbucks and stuff like that if I'm just one person? Like, why is my impact going to make a difference? And that is like so frustrating to me, because it's just like there's this quote by Harry Truman that one of my professors always said, and it's like imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time. So it's like, even if you aren't doing it perfectly, like you don't have to be perfectly zero waste and stuff like that. As long as you're like making an effort to make a change and like not produce as much trash and stuff, it really adds up. Like you really do make a better impact overall.
Yeah. And like, obviously I'm like a history buff, so I relate everything back to history, and it's like the same thing like with the civil rights movement, which is like what I'm zeroed in on right now and learning about, because there's like so much stuff, like everybody knows like the basics of the civil rights movement. There's so much like little things that a lot of people don't know about, and one of those things is Martin Luther King Jr. had a hard time getting older African Americans on board with the movement, because it's just how it was. That's like how they lived their life the entire time, and they wanted change now, not a gradual change. So maybe that's another thing that we can promote, is to get older people on board with, is like, maybe you're not going to see the change immediately, but over time, this is a good thing and it will benefit society as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I've noticed too. Like coming home from college, I'm living with my parents again, and like I'm just much more aware about the things that I throw away. But my dad will just like use 3 paper plates and then like throw them away and like do a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Side note, there's this girl on TikTok who you probably know. I can't remember what her name is. It's like Ashley something, and it's like this girl who's like extremely conscious of the stuff that she throws away and uses, and she's like 100% only like renewable things. Like there's this laundry detergent she has that's made from like natural, like I don't like nuts or something, and you can use it like 6 times, like over and over again, and it's just, I don't know, that's really cool. If I find her,
that is really cool. I know a guy from the UIEC group that I'm in who's like lives zero waste, and it's actually so interesting. Like if I had more money and I wasn't a broke college student, I would like definitely try to do it, but I try some things, but obviously not everything.
Yeah, and especially in an area like ours, and this is kind of a thing too, like my sister's a vegan, obviously, and it's extremely hard. I mean, it's not impossible, but it is harder to be a vegan here than somewhere like Seattle. And it's the same thing with like zero waste. It's hard to do that here as opposed to a place in like Seattle, Washington, where they're extremely, I guess you would call them liberal, but
yeah, and there's more options for everything.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is kind of a hot topic now, especially in like kind of the more left side of things, like talking about how real change never really takes place from the top down, but it always takes place from the bottom up. So in your opinion, is the real change, real environmental justice, does that start through activists like you, or should we focus on electing people who might actually make a change, or is it a combination of the both?
I feel like it is a combination of the both, because it's kind of like the idea of living zero waste and stuff. It's like putting the whole responsibility on the consumer, like it's our responsibility to save the environment, but it shouldn't be entirely the consumer. It should be like the large corporations and the government taking their responsibility too, because they have so much power, and like obviously we can't control those things so easily. But I don't know, I just feel like figures like Greta Thunberg and people like that, they're definitely like, we need those people, because they're willing to like be the voice for all of us, and it makes us feel more empowered to make a change. But like it's so frustrating, like how you mentioned, it just takes so much time to like elect people that are going to make a change and just pass things. Like I don't know. That's such a like difficult position.
Yeah, and it's also like, I can't remember the stat, but this isn't necessarily like it. I feel like the climate, we have way more control over like the trash aspect of things and cleaning up our environment than we do of the climate change aspect, because I can't remember the stat, but it's somewhere like 70%, like 100 companies make up like 70% of all CO2 emissions. So that's a thing that we actually, it's out of our hands. We have to elect people to fix that. But it's going about doing that because these corporations aren't stupid. They know what they're doing. I mean, there's reports that they knew they were causing climate change from like the 1960s,
Yeah.
but they hid it. So what they do is they're campaign contributors. They donate thousands of dollars to campaigns. So then once those people get elected, they're like, oh, those people donated me a bunch of money. I won't crack down on them.
Yeah.
So I think the one issue that affects all of the issues, and especially with climate change, is kind of getting money out of politics. So I don't know what your idea on that is, if there should just be publicly funded campaigns or what.
Yeah, I feel like yes, because it just creates so much bias, like how the corporations have so much control over government decisions and everything, and especially like when it comes to energy and like oil and stuff from the Middle East. Like I know in one of my classes I learned about GM. They like created an electric car in the 90s, I'm pretty sure, and it was because the government at the time like um, increase the CAFE standard rules, which is like the corporate average fuel economy for like the GM vehicles. And they said like you needed to be more efficient because of all like the smog problems in California. And they had the car for like maybe 3 years or something, if that, and it was super popular. But then the oil companies like got super mad because it was an electric car and it wasn't using like fuel. So then GM like took the cars literally back from the people and like destroyed all of them, and they said they were going to recycle them, and they literally just ended up like destroying them and burning the parts and stuff. So it's like it's just really frustrating that like because the oil companies got mad, they like controlled the government, and then the
Yeah.
government controlled GM, and like I don't know, it's just
Yeah,
so frustrating.
I heard about that. I can't, that was like pretty recent, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Like
well it
that was
happened
not
in
the,
the 90s, but I'm sure
oh,
like it
okay.
happens with other things as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is like recent on a large scale.
Yeah.
um, so uh, maybe talk a little bit about, so people like to say that we can't transition away from fossil fuels on a bigger scale towards climate change because that'll kill the economy, and there's be thousands of people that'll lose their jobs. But what people like me and you probably would say is the Green New Deal would provide thousands of new jobs through green new energy, like wind, solar, and you could even do like nuclear, which we could talk about nuclear energy. I don't know how much you know about that, but it's
Yeah.
not a bad thing until it is really bad.
Yeah.
But so what would you say to people who would say it's not like economically sustainable to move away from carbon emission type products?
Well, to me, like the thing that's most obvious is like obviously the economy is very important and we need it to be good, but like in however many years when we run out of fossil fuels and stuff, like then what's going to happen? Because we only have like 63 years until peak oil and like 100 and some years until peak coal, I think. Like there's these stats that I learned about in my class, but like it's closer than people think, and I'm just like, what are we going to do when that happens, you know? And then like also what you said with how like the Green New Deal that can also like bring jobs and stuff. I know that in Germany, like they're really increasing their wind energy, and they're like able to harness that energy and sell it to other countries. So like that
Yeah.
also brings in like profits.
Yeah, and in my opinion, it's like it's a huge new sector that's just waiting to be discovered. Like if we were to actually invest in like green new energy, and you could invent new ways of creating new energy, like that is like a multi-trillion-dollar sector just waiting to be
Yeah.
tapped into in the United States economy. But it's just like it's like when the telephone was invented and like, or like the car was invented, and people are like, well, what about the horse economy and the buggy economy? It's like, let's move on past it and let's invest in this new economy that's way better.
Yes, definitely.
Um, so maybe a more lighthearted question, but who kind of inspired you to get involved?
So someone who's inspired me is we donated to this nonprofit organization when I did the green team called Living Lands and Waters. And it's like kind of based in the area. They started on like the Mississippi River, and it's essentially just this group of people who live on a barge for a couple months, well, for like almost 10 months out of the year, I think. And they just clean up trash up and down the Mississippi, the Ohio River, and a bunch of other places around the country. and it's ran by Chad Pergacki, and I read his book because after we donated to them, he sent it to me, and it was like so like it just made me want to go outside and like buy a boat and start cleaning up the river and stuff because he's just so inspiring and he has such like a strong work ethic and he's gone through so much to get like his company to where it is today, and it's just really cool like how much they've cleaned up like over 1,000,000 pounds of trash, I think, and it's just
Wow.
really cool.
Yeah. What's your opinion on, this is kind of a side note too, but what's your opinion on the like trash island? Isn't there like a trash island in the Pacific or something that's like
Yeah,
as big as Texas or something?
yeah,
Have
it's
you?
huge.
Yeah.
I don't, it's literally like there's so much plastic. Every single piece of plastic that has ever been created in the world is like still here. And it's just like food packaging, everything is plastic, you know, like you look around you and just it's everywhere, and it's so dangerous because like it's just like there's so much waste, and it's not a problem that we can like recycle our way out of it now anymore. Like we have to cut back on our consumer habits and stuff, and gosh, I don't know. It's just so
Yeah.
overwhelming to think about.
Yeah. And I think that the only way to really change it is you have to get the profit motive out of it, because as long as people are going to be making money off of something, it's not going to change. And
Yeah,
I mean, that's just putting it blunt. It's like, if these CEOs of these companies are making millions of dollars a year, they don't care, you know, because like they're
no,
not going to feel the effects of climate change. They're 60, 70-year-old people. So it's like, it's kind of just, you're stuck almost a little bit. And I don't know. I don't know how to change that.
I know. That's where it's hard. Like how I mentioned, it shouldn't be on the consumer because like we need certain things, and if they're being packaged in this, like we can't help but buy it. But like the companies need to be the ones to change the packaging and stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody like a young kid, maybe in high school, or even, I mean, even a grown adult that wants to actually step up and make a change? What would be your advice to them?
I would say like kind of what I mentioned earlier, like you don't have to do anything perfectly as long as you're doing something. That's all that matters. But definitely just educate yourself and like to realize your own impact because like when I took a step back and looked at all the things that like I was buying in a year and like how much waste I was producing, it was just like wow, you know, I could definitely cut back on some things. I think the average US American US American the
It's
average
okay.
American, that we produce like 4 pounds of trash per day per person, which is insane to think about because it all adds up, obviously. But definitely just realize your own personal impact and look at like those spots where you can change your habits and stuff because you know, like it all adds up.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any like last minute ideas or thoughts that come to your head that you want to talk about?
Have you seen the movie Dark Waters? I think it's called.
Uh-uh.
It's about the DuPont company out in
Okay.
Delaware. It's like where their headquarters are, and they were like producing this product called Teflon. I don't know if you've ever heard of it,
Yeah,
but it
I've
was
heard of
like
it.
with those non-stick pans, and if
Hmm.
you heated them to a certain like temperature, they would like cause cancer and stuff because it was like really toxic, the chemicals that they were using. And so I think it was like C8 is what the chemical was called, but they essentially like dumped all of it into this waterway,
Hmm.
and it like was getting into like the town's drinking water and stuff, and like down on these farms, and like all of the cows on this farm were dying, and the people's like teeth were turning black and they were getting cancer, and like the women who worked in the factory, like their children were having birth defects and stuff.
Yeah.
And like this was all real, but this movie Dark Waters, it like tells the whole story, and it's actually like really cool because it talks about how this guy filed a lawsuit against DuPont, which was like a huge deal because like they're a huge corporation and they contribute a lot to the economy. And like the EPA got involved at one point, and Du- um, DuPont ended up like having to pay some money, but like in the end, they escaped a lot of the stuff like they should have been charged for just because of like their influence, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, it's a really good movie.
Yeah. Okay, so check that out. It's tough. It really is tough because like we're in a position where you want to make a change, but you can only do so much as one human being. Like, don't get me wrong, your impact matters 100%, and
Hmm.
what you do as an individual does matter. But at the same time, it's like when you have these large multinational corporations that just don't care, and they are the main source of the problem. you have to have people who are actually going to stand up for you in government that can actually do something. And then when you have all these people in government who are bought and paid for by these corporations, it's a huge like vicious cycle that it's hard to escape. And in my opinion, the way you escape it is you get money out of politics, and then you actually have people who will fight for what they believe in. You know what I mean? Because these people, I mean, the vast majority of people who don't believe in climate change, quote unquote, don't believe, because it's like a fact. It's like, you don't believe in gravity. It doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. It's real. But like the people who don't believe in it, I mean, they're probably smart people. They know it's real. It's just that it's not profitable for them to believe that it's real and it's really happening.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing with cigarettes. I mean, the cigarette companies, when they found out cigarettes are causing cancer, they spent like millions of dollars lobbying to make sure nothing changed. So it's the exact same thing. And our Vice President Mike Pence, I think as recently as like 2010, said cigarettes don't cause cancer. So
what a guy.
What a great guy.
But yeah, something definitely needs to change, like on a large scale. So hopefully that comes soon. You know, the 2020 elections. There's a guy in office right now doesn't believe in climate change, and yeah.
I mean, we were in the Paris Climate Agreement, which was literally like one of the like most light stepping stones you can make. Like it didn't even like, I don't know the exact details, but I know that it didn't do much. But it was just a pact. I mean, everybody is in it still, except for like the United States and like Bhutan or some weird country. So it's like I don't know what we are in terms of carbon emissions in the world, but I'm pretty sure we're like top 3. I think it's like China, India, and then us or something like that. And like if the top guys don't step in and they don't want to make a change, and their leader doesn't even believe in this thing is happening, like you're stuck. So yeah,
I know. And I looked at his website the other day, his like campaign website, to see if he even had like anything about the environment, but literally all it was just like his energy. It said energy and the environment, and it was all just like he approved these pipelines, and he approved like drilling in the like Arctic animal refuge. Like I was like, so what the hell? Like you're ruining the environment then. Like, I understand the importance of energy and everything, but I don't know. I don't understand.
Oh yeah, his cuts to the EPA. I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure he's cut like millions of dollars of funding from the EPA and like rerouted them to be funding like the wars we're in or something like that.
Yes, that was the whole like campaign thing. He was gonna say like he's cutting money from the EPA to fund things like the military and stuff like that already has so much like going to it. Yeah,
and then he's gonna revitalize the coal industry, which probably did help him get elected, because that's another thing, is we need to not push blame on the coal workers or the people who are in those positions where they have to work those jobs, because it's not their fault. They're just making a living and they want to like provide for their families. It's that we have to transition away from there and like allow them to have like years of training into green new energy fields, to where then they can get new jobs, and that'll be better for the environment and will work for them still. But yeah,
that was something with Iowa City was they want to be more sustainable and stuff, and they have sustainability goals, but like the campus is run by a coal power plant, and the university just signed a contract that they sold the power plant to a private company, and the contract is for like 50 years. And so it's like, why do you even make those goals when you just like ensured that we would be using coal for the next 50 years? So it's just frustrating. But I know that they do use like oat hulls and stuff from Cedar Rapids, from Quaker Oats or whatever, so it's nice that they use like biomass, but like I don't know, it's still not great for emissions.
Alrighty, so that's been Lilli Scott. I'll let her in the closing here. I'll let her plug anything she wants. She can plug her Twitter, Instagram, anything that she wants, the green team, stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're in high school still, you should join the green team, because you'll get volunteer hours, and it's just good to help the earth. And feel free to follow me on Insta at Lil Scott with 4 T's.
Yeah, and I'll link your Instagram and your Twitter in the description. All right, well, that's all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day.